big positive to this watch has been the sleep function for me. So good afternoon, welcome back to the channel. Today I have got a review of the Polar Pacer Pro, which is the latest watch from Polar. They've kindly sent it out to me for the purpose of this review, but with no obligation to make this video. So yeah, this was going to be less of a sort of really technical review that you see here on YouTube, and more of just sharing my sort of thoughts and opinions on how I've used this watch over the last month or so of testing. So this is Polar's latest running watch, which they've described as a no-nonsense GPS watch that gives modern runners all the essentials to execute your daily runs. And yeah, I found it's a really nice, simple watch, especially if you're somebody who doesn't really like to have sort of overcomplicated features. It's kind of a stripped back, very traditional running watch, and I've thoroughly enjoyed using it so far. In today's video, I'll just go over some of the specifications, and then go over my likes and dislikes, and finally my conclusions on how I've been getting on with this watch. This watch comes in at £169.50, which is fairly competitive compared to the other watches on the market from, say, Kuros, Garmin. Yeah, seems fairly reasonable price for a high quality watch. It weighs 45 grams with this strap here, which is fairly lightweight. Again, fairly similar to other watches. It's a lot lighter than the Vantage V2 that I was recently trying from Polar as well. So it's a bit more of a sort of more compact running watch. As you can see there, the difference between the two. But it is a little bit heavier than, say, the Kuros Pace 2, which is a watch I also have been using recently. On the website it says this watch can last up to 7 days on ultra battery saving mode, something like that. But if you're like me, I never really want to put a watch or any of my devices into that low power mode unless I'm out doing something sort of super endurance. So for me, this watch has lasted about 4 or 5 days before I've needed to charge it, and it just connects via a little magnetic charging cord onto the back. And yeah, I've found that charging is actually really fast with this watch. You can quickly get a full charge in about 30-40 minutes. So on the couple of occasions where I've looked to go out for my run and I've seen that the battery is low, I've just chucked it on for 10 minutes, and that will last for the whole duration of the run. So yeah, the battery life I'd say is good. And the charging time is excellent. And the final note on the specs, it's a 45mm casing and a 30mm display, and it's a very high quality premium sort of metal feel watch with a glass face. So I've had this watch now for about a month's time, so I've been using it for a wide range of running, from easy runs, long runs, interval work, even raced with it, and yeah, it's performed really well overall. I'm just going to go over some of my likes and dislikes about this watch, and then I'll go over a conclusion of who this watch is best suited for and how I think it could be improved in the future. So we'll start off with the likes. The first big positive about this watch has been the heart rate monitoring function. It's far more accurate than other watches I've tried from Garmin, Kuros. Don't want to sort of shit on them basically, but I've found that the Polar has been a lot more accurate with heart rate readings across my runs, even through sessions. If you're somebody who trains to heart rate or is looking for a watch that's much more accurate, then this Polar Pacer may be the watch for you. Like I said, the build quality of this watch is exceptional. Yeah, it definitely has a high quality feel to it when you put it on, and as a result, I feel comfortable wearing this out to sort of formal occasions. It doesn't look necessarily like an out-and-out running watch. It's got a bit of swagger to it compared to, say, the other watches that I've tried in the past, like the Garmin 735 and the Kuros. It's a much better looking watch. So if that's something that you want to consider when looking at buying a watch, then yeah, in my opinion, the design and build quality is really sleek. Overall, the display on this watch is very clear. It might be a little bit on the boring side, if I'm totally honest. Quite a dull design, but yeah, simple, easy to read. It's got a light function when you're out on the run in the evening. It's still really easy to read. So yeah, no complaints about the display, and it's very clear to read, which is what you want from a watch. So another one of my likes. The big positive to this watch has been the sleep function for me. Because this watch is so comfortable to wear, I've had no problems wearing this throughout the night. And basically the Polar watches can track your sleep. They can tell you all sorts of things, such as your heart rate variability, your breathing rate, the quality of sleep, the length of your sleep. So it's really fascinating, and you can see a lot more details on the Polar app. But yeah, that's definitely been a standout feature for me, and I've been using that to sort of monitor how I've slept and how I've recovered, and I've even been able to adjust my training on days where I've maybe not got such a good night's sleep. So yeah, that feature is really good. I'll just show you an example of that. So for example, last night, it says here my nightly recharge was very poor. I was out last night in London with some family. We had a few drinks. We didn't get back home till about 12 o'clock. So yeah, it was quite a late night. And it says here my sleep score was 53 out of 100. Usually that would be closer to about 70, 75 on a good night. And it says here my ANS charge was minus 5.3. From 0 being the average. So yeah, not such a great night's sleep. But then again, woke up today and I've been able to adjust my training, knowing that my body might not be as recovered as it would have been had I got a better night's sleep. So that feature for me on the Polar has been a real positive and is the standout feature for this watch for sure. So moving on to some of my dislikes. One of those is that any adjustments that you want to make to the watch face or sort of the running settings have to be done on your phone, on the Polar watch, on the Polar app, which yeah, can be a little bit frustrating. So for example, if you're heading out the door and you decided you wanted to turn lap pace off, you have to get your phone out and turn it off on the app and then sync the watch. The whole process takes about 2 or 3 minutes. Whereas for me, I would personally prefer to have that as an option to change on the watch, so you can be a little bit more flexible when it comes to adjustments. Now, one of the big downsides for this watch for me, unfortunately, has been the lack of a lap pace setting during my workouts. So I've used this for interval workouts. And for me, a lot of my intervals are to time. So for example, one of my key sessions I do is 3 times 10 minutes at threshold pace, and during that threshold 10-minute interval, I like to know the lap pace that I'm running at. So the pace, if I continue running at that speed, I will finish that lap in that time, in that speed, if that makes sense. So for example, it will show if I continue running at this speed, I'll finish this repetition at 3 minutes 15 per kilometre. The Polar unfortunately doesn't have that setting. It has a current pace setting, which basically tells you how fast you're running for maybe the last 2 or 3 steps, which again is okay, but I find for me that fluctuates quite a lot, and it's hard to gauge your sort of lap pace during the workout, which for me again is not ideal. So yeah, that has been one of the downsides to this watch, not knowing my current lap pace for when I do interval workouts to time. But when it comes to track workouts and intervals to distance, there's no problem at all that I've found, and it's fairly easy to use. So for example, if you're doing 400 meter reps on the track, there's a lap button here, which is the red button on this side, nice and clear. It's easy to sort of press when you're running around the track. It's sort of got a textured feel to the button, so yeah, easy to grip and press. So I've not had any issues when it comes to track stuff or workouts to distance, but when it comes to time-based intervals, it's not been the easiest to use basically, and that has been one of the downsides to this watch. And finally, something else that hasn't been so great is when I've been using this watch and uploading my workouts to Strava, it seems to sort of lose that workout analysis that I have with other watches, and it just reverts it all back to sort of lap pace. So for example, if you're doing a track workout and you're doing a kilometre, or no, maybe like, I don't know, 2 kilometers of running, and you want to know your pace for that overall interval, the Polar will sort of split that up into 2 kilometers, which yeah, isn't ideal. I would like to prefer to see the sort of nice bars you see on workout analysis on Strava. If you're on Strava and you do workouts frequently, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, that's my overall sort of likes and dislikes for this watch. Let me just wrap things up with a bit of a conclusion. So the sort of no-nonsense GPS watch approach that Polar have gone for has left this watch feeling a little bit outdated for me. The simplicity is great, but it has been lacking some of the features that I would like to see that I have on maybe some of the other watches that I've tried. So for everyday running, manually lapped workouts and racing is a good option, but for me in my specific training, those timed intervals has been a little bit frustrating and has reduced my sort of overall enjoyment of this watch. It's really sort of interesting to me that the lack of one sort of minor feature like that can have an effect on the overall performance of the watch for me. But then again, if that's something that doesn't really bother you, the lapped pace for timed intervals is a very specific feature, obviously. If that isn't a problem for you, then you're probably going to get on really well with this watch. So to conclude, this watch has been a really good sort of body monitoring device, but whereas when it comes to sort of performance running, it has been a little bit outdated and maybe oversimplified for me. But I've highly enjoyed trying it out. Thank you for Polar for sending it to me. The Polar Pacer will continue to be my go-to watch for everyday running and that sleep tracking device. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this honest review. If you'd like to check out the Polar Pacer, I'll leave a link down below. Yeah, if you're looking for a smart watch that's sort of a high build quality and is quite a simple but gets the job done type watch, then yeah, maybe this is one for you. But thanks for watching. Aspire to run, run to inspire, and we'll see you with a race vlog soon. Bye bye.